The state Supreme Court ordered a convicted murderer who was released 16 years early to be sent back to prison.
Jeroid Price faced a 35-year sentence for the 2002 murder of Carl Smalls Jr., a college football player. Price was released in March after former Richland County Judge Casey Manning signed and sealed an order. Smalls' parents and prosecutors heavily criticized the order for its secrecy and have openly criticized its legal arguments. The Attorney General's office requested the state Supreme Court find the order void and issue a bench warrant for Price to be rearrested.
The court did that today. Our Chris Joseph is joining us with what the justices said in court this afternoon. Chris?
Dondi, they grilled both sides, and the final verdict was tight, a 3-2 decision. Now, the court hasn't released any official legal arguments, but the questions centered around what led up to the order and whether the court could even rule in this case. Now, Attorney General Alan Wilson represented the state against Price's attorney, Todd Rutherford. Several justices expressed their disapproval of this order and the failure to notify the Smalls family, but they repeatedly challenged Wilson on whether they could rule on such an order that Solicitor Byron Gibson agreed to. Now, Justices John Kittredge, John Few, and Garrison Hill ultimately decided the court could act, issuing that Supreme Court order. Chief Justice Donald Beatty and Justice George James dissented. Price will now either have to turn himself in or be rearrested to serve those remaining 19 years of his prison term with the South Carolina Department of Corrections. Now, Rutherford argued in the hearing today that Price's actions assisting the Department of Corrections merited the early release, and returning Price to prison would be a death sentence. Justice Kittredge challenged Rutherford on the legality of the process leading up to that early release order.
The Department of Corrections had miscount again, and that
you may be able to talk for 2 hours about how wonderful this order was and how Mr. Price was entitled to it. But the law requires the filing of a motion. It was not done.
Now, I've reached out to Rutherford for comment on Price's whereabouts and the plan in light of this order to return to the Department of Corrections. I spoke with the Department of Corrections spokesperson earlier this hour. She tells me Price has not yet been returned to their custody, but of course they'll announce that when that transpires. Dondi?